True wisdom is not about how much you know. It is about how much you are willing to learn. It is about understanding that knowledge is endless, that there is always something more to discover. The greatest minds in history, the most enlightened teachers, the most respected leaders, they all share one thing in common. They remain humble. They do not let pride block their growth. They do not allow arrogance to limit their potential. Humility is not weakness. It is not about lowering yourself or thinking less of your abilities. It is about recognizing that no matter how much you know, there is always more to understand. It is about keeping your mind open, about being willing to listen, about being ready to learn from anyone and anything. Today, I want to share with you a powerful story, a story about a student who sought wisdom, but could not receive it because his mind was already full. A story that teaches us why humility is the key to true growth. A story that reminds us that the fuller we become, the lower we must bow, because the more we learn, the more we realize how much we do not know. And in that realization, we find true wisdom. The story of the overflowing teacup. A lesson in humility. There was once a young student, eager to seek wisdom. He had read many books, studied various philosophies, and believed that he had already gained a great understanding of life, yet he still felt something was missing. He wanted confirmation that he was truly wise. So he decided to seek out a highly respected Zen master. One day, he arrived at the master's home, bowed respectfully, and said, "Master, I have traveled far to learn from you. I have studied deeply and have gained much knowledge. I wish for you to teach me the final truths of wisdom so that I may reach enlightenment." The master looked at the young man and nodded. "Come, let us have some tea first," he said. He took out a teapot and 2 cups, gently placing them on the table. Slowly, he began pouring tea into the student's cup. The student watched as the warm liquid filled the cup, rising closer and closer to the top. But the master did not stop. He continued pouring, and soon the tea overflowed, spilling onto the table, dripping onto the floor. Alarmed, the student quickly spoke up. "Master, stop. The cup is full. It cannot hold any more." The master stopped pouring, looked at the student, and smiled. "My dear student, you are like this cup. You have come to me full of your own knowledge, full of your own beliefs. But if your mind is already full, how can I pour anything new into it?" The young man sat in silence, realizing the profound truth in the master's words. He had been so focused on what he thought he already knew that he had left no room for new learning. The lesson behind the story. This simple yet powerful story teaches us one of the most important lessons in life. A mind that is already full cannot receive anything new. If we believe we already know everything, we close ourselves off from further growth. True wisdom does not come from accumulating more knowledge. It comes from having the humility to recognize that there is always more to learn. The greatest teachers, the most enlightened individuals, are not those who claim to know it all. They are the ones who keep an open mind, who listen, who remain students of life no matter how much they have achieved. Think about moments in your own life. Have you ever been so convinced that you were right that you refused to listen to another perspective? Have you ever dismissed someone's advice because you thought you already knew better? But what if, in those moments, you had set aside your pride and listened? What if you had emptied your cup just a little, making space for new understanding? Why humility is the key to growth. Humility is not about thinking less of yourself. It is about recognizing that no matter how much you know, there is always something more to learn. It is about keeping your mind open, being willing to listen, and understanding that true wisdom is a lifelong journey. When we are humble, we learn from every experience. We grow from every challenge. We absorb wisdom from every person we meet. But when we are arrogant, we block our own progress. We become like the overflowing cup, unable to take in anything new. So, the next time you find yourself resisting a new idea, take a step back. Ask yourself, am I truly listening? Or is my mind too full? Because in life, the ones who grow the most are not those who think they know everything. They are the ones who remain open, who stay curious, who understand that the more they learn, the more they realize how much they do not know. Keep your cup empty, and you will always have room for something greater. Why we should live with humility. Humility is one of the most valuable qualities a person can have. It is the foundation of wisdom, the key to growth, and the bridge that connects us with others. Yet, in a world where people constantly seek validation and recognition, humility is often misunderstood. Some see it as weakness, as a lack of confidence, as something that makes us less powerful. But in reality, humility is a sign of strength. It is what allows us to grow, to keep learning, and to build meaningful relationships. So why should we live with humility? Why is it so important to our personal and spiritual growth? Let's explore the reasons why embracing humility leads to a life of greater wisdom, deeper connections, and continuous improvement. 1. Humility keeps us learning and growing. One of the greatest truths in life is that the more we learn, the more we realize how little we actually know. The most knowledgeable people, the greatest teachers, the wisest minds all share one thing in common. They listen more than they speak. They never assume they have all the answers. They remain students, no matter how much they have achieved. Imagine two people. One believes they already know everything and refuses to accept new ideas. The other approaches life with curiosity, always open to learning, always seeking new knowledge. Who do you think will grow more? Humility allows us to be lifelong learners. It keeps us open to new perspectives, new skills, and new experiences. When we are humble, we acknowledge that every person we meet can teach us something. We see every challenge as an opportunity to grow. We accept that making mistakes is part of learning. And instead of defending our ego, we focus on improving ourselves. On the other hand, when we believe we already know enough, we stop progressing. We close our minds. We miss out on opportunities for growth. The most successful, enlightened individuals are not those who claim to know everything. They are those who understand that knowledge is endless, and there is always more to learn. 2. Arrogance stops us from progressing while humility leads to growth. Arrogance leads to stagnation. When we think we already have all the answers, we stop asking questions. When we believe we are the smartest person in the room, we stop listening. And when we refuse to accept feedback or different perspectives, we limit our own potential. Arrogance creates a false sense of superiority. It tricks us into thinking that we are always right, that we do not need to improve, that our way is the only way. But this mindset only holds us back. It prevents us from evolving, from adapting, from becoming the best version of ourselves. Think about a river. A flowing river is full of life, always moving, always changing. But a stagnant pool of water becomes lifeless, unable to sustain growth. The same applies to our minds. If we stop learning, if we stop growing, we become stuck. If we want to reach our highest potential, we must let go of arrogance. We must embrace humility, recognizing that there is always room to improve, always more to discover, always another lesson to learn. 3. Humility helps us build stronger relationships. Beyond personal growth, humility also plays a crucial role in how we connect with others. Humble people are respected, valued, and trusted. They do not dominate conversations. They do not seek to prove they are better than others. And they do not let their ego get in the way of meaningful relationships. When we are humble, we listen more. We respect different opinions. We acknowledge that we do not have all the answers. And we are willing to learn from those around us. This creates an environment of mutual respect, where others feel heard, valued, and appreciated. In contrast, arrogance pushes people away. No one likes to be around someone who always thinks they are right, who never listens, who always tries to prove their superiority. Arrogance creates distance, while humility brings people closer together. Humble people are also more likely to receive help and guidance. When we show that we are willing to learn, others are more inclined to share their knowledge, to mentor us, to support us in our journey. People are naturally drawn to those who are open, kind, and receptive. Final thought. Choose humility. Choose growth. Humility is not about thinking less of yourself. It is about thinking beyond yourself. It is about understanding that no matter how much you know, there is always more to learn. No matter how skilled you are, there is always room for improvement. No matter how much you achieve, there is always something greater to strive for. When we live with humility, we become lifelong learners. We continue to grow, to evolve, to expand our minds. We avoid the trap of arrogance, which leads to stagnation. And most importantly, we build stronger, more meaningful relationships with those around us. So the next time you feel the urge to prove you are right, pause, listen, be open. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this moment? How can I grow from this experience? Because true wisdom is not in knowing everything. It is in knowing that there is always more to learn. And the more we embrace humility, the higher we can rise. How to practice humility in everyday life. Humility is not just a mindset. It is a way of living, a habit that shapes the way we think, speak, and interact with the world around us. It is not about thinking less of ourselves, but about recognizing that there is always more to learn, always room to grow, and always wisdom to gain from others. But how do we practice humility in our daily lives? How do we ensure that we remain open, teachable, and grounded? No matter how much we achieve, here are 3 powerful ways to cultivate humility and embrace a life of continuous learning, deep connection, and true personal growth. 1. Always maintain the mindset of a student. No matter how much you know, there is always more to learn. No matter how skilled you are, there is always someone who can teach you something new. The moment we believe we have nothing left to learn is the moment we stop growing. Humility begins with the understanding that wisdom is endless. Every person you meet, every experience you have, every challenge you face holds a lesson. Look at the greatest minds in history, the best leaders, the most enlightened teachers, the most respected individuals. They all have one thing in common. They never stop learning. They never assume they have all the answers. Instead, they stay curious, open, and willing to listen. So how do we apply this in our own lives? Start seeing every person as a teacher, whether it is a child, a stranger, or someone with completely different beliefs from you. There is always something valuable to learn if you are willing to listen. Approach life with the mindset of a student, and you will never stop growing. 2. Learn to listen before you speak. One of the simplest yet most powerful ways to practice humility is to listen more than you speak. Too often, we rush to give our opinions, to prove our knowledge, to make our voices heard. But true wisdom comes from listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk. When you listen, you gain insight. You see the world through another person's perspective. You open yourself to new ideas, new experiences, and new ways of thinking. Before you speak, ask yourself, am I speaking to truly understand, or just to be heard? Am I listening to learn, or am I just waiting to respond? Listening does not mean you agree with everything you hear. It simply means you respect the knowledge, experiences, and perspectives of others. And when you do this, you build deeper connections, gain greater understanding, and continue your journey of learning. 3. Set aside your ego and accept that you can be wrong. Humility is not about thinking less of yourself. It is about having the courage to admit when you are wrong, to acknowledge when you have something to improve, and to be open to change. It is easy to hold on to our beliefs, to defend our opinions, to resist correction. But true strength is found in the ability to say, I was wrong, and I am willing to learn. The strongest people are not those who never make mistakes. They are the ones who recognize their mistakes, learn from them, and grow. Think about a time when you refused to admit you were wrong. Was it because you truly believed you were right? Or was it because your ego got in the way? Now, think about a time when you admitted a mistake and learned from it. Did it make you weaker? Or did it actually make you stronger, wiser, and more respected by those around you? When you set aside your ego, you create space for growth. You allow yourself to evolve. You show others that learning is more important than pride. Final thought. Choose humility. Choose growth. Humility is not about making yourself small. It is about making yourself open. Open to learning. Open to listening. Open to growth. When you keep the mindset of a student, you will never stop evolving. When you learn to listen, you will gain more wisdom than you ever imagined. When you set aside your ego, you will unlock your greatest potential. So as you move forward, ask yourself, am I truly open to learning? Am I willing to listen? Am I strong enough to admit when I am wrong? Because the more you embrace humility, the higher you will rise. Living with humility is living with wisdom. The more we learn, the more we realize how little we actually know. True wisdom is not about having all the answers. It is about understanding that knowledge is endless and that there is always more to discover. Those who are truly wise do not seek to prove their intelligence. Instead, they seek to grow, to listen, and to understand. Humility is not a weakness. It is a sign of true strength, maturity, and wisdom. It is what allows us to keep learning, to build meaningful relationships, and to evolve into better versions of ourselves. When we are humble, we do not let our ego limit us. We do not fear being wrong. Instead, we welcome growth. We embrace new perspectives. And we continuously expand our understanding of the world. So, how do we live with humility? The answer is simple yet powerful. Keep your mind open, like an empty cup, always ready to receive new knowledge. No matter how much you know, there is always something more to learn. Practice listening more than you speak. Every person you meet has something to teach you. The more you listen, the more wisdom you gain. Set aside your ego and accept that growth comes from admitting mistakes, learning from others, and being willing to change. True confidence is found not in pretending to know everything, but in having the courage to keep learning. As you move forward, remind yourself that humility is the key to lifelong growth. It is the foundation of wisdom, the path to deeper connections, and the secret to true success. So choose humility, choose growth, choose to be open, to listen, to learn. Because the higher you rise, the more important it is to stay grounded.